Welcome to UCounsel. Today we will talk about the eligibility criteria for Canada Emergency Response Benefit. As I had noted yesterday, that government has provided some additional information which clarifies a number of questions that people had asked us about eligibility in the past 4 or 5 days. So some of those questions are answered today. Please note that this video is not legal advice, so if you have any specific questions, you should contact Canada Revenue Agency with respect to Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or if you have any other legal issue, you should contact a lawyer or a paralegal or the Law Society of Ontario for a referral. We'll talk about 4 things about the eligibility criteria. The first criteria is that the person should be at least 15 years of age. That does not need further explaining. We will talk about the requirement of residing in Canada. We'll elaborate that. We'll talk about the requirement of having earned $5,000 to be eligible. We'll talk about what does it mean to have stopped working due to COVID-19 to be eligible. We will talk about what kind of income you should not have during CERB period for you to be eligible for CERB. And we will talk about employment insurance benefits and CERB, a little bit of comparison. If you have already applied for EI, what do you have to do if you have not? What are some of the things that you can do? So let's talk about residing in Canada. People have asked whether temporary foreign workers will be eligible. The answer is yes. If you are an international student, you will still be eligible as long as you meet the remaining criteria. The only requirement is that you should be residing in Canada. It doesn't matter whether you are a temporary foreign worker or an international student, and you have a valid social insurance number. Let's talk about the 5K requirement. So as noted earlier, you should have earned in 2019 $5,000 or in the last 12 months. So if you're applying now, then in preceding 12 months, you ought to have earned $5,000 total income to be eligible. For an income to count towards 5K, it should be either from employment or self-employment or maternity benefits or parental benefits. Please note that if you were earning employment insurance regular benefits, you cannot count that money towards 5K. Or if you were earning illness benefits from EI, you cannot count those monies towards 5K, or any other sources of income you may have had, whether it was ODSP or Ontario Works or any other provincial plan. Those monies cannot be counted towards 5K. It's strictly these 4 categories which can be counted towards 5K requirement. Let's talk about stopping to work due to COVID-19. People have asked a number of questions, and I hope that majority of those questions will be clear. Some of those questions will still not be answered because we have limited information. But these are the examples of you stopping work due to COVID-19. You have been let go from your job, or your hours have been reduced to 0. It's important to note that hours need to be reduced to 0. There is a little exception for the first 4 weeks period, which I'll explain later. You are in quarantine or sick due to COVID-19. So the quarantining or sickness has to be related to COVID-19. You are away from work to take care of others because they are in quarantine, sick due to COVID-19, or you are away to take care of children or other dependents whose care facility is closed or schools are closed due to COVID-19. Now, some of the people have asked questions, how do you go about staying at home to take care of someone who is quarantined or sick, or to take care of your children? Most of the questions were about children. Now, obviously, you tell your employer that you need to take care of your child because there's no one to take care of your child. The daycare is closed and the schools are closed, we all know. So, and if the employer says, no, you're required to come to work, then obviously there's a problem, especially for employer, because you're entitled, based on this legislation, to stay home to take care of your children. And if the employer does that, that may amount to a claim against the employer for doing so. So then in that scenario, you need to contact a lawyer and proceed with your potential claim. Here are examples of people who will be ineligible because of this work scenario. So if you have resigned from your employment, you are not eligible for CERB. If you are looking for work, so if you are one of those people who are saying that I have been looking for work for the last 3-4 months, and because of COVID-19, I am unable to find job, unfortunately, you are not eligible. If you were terminated for cause because of any wrongdoing, as I said earlier, cause is a specific word which has specific meaning in law. But if you were terminated for cause, you will not be eligible. If you were planning to work, for example, this summer, if you were a student and you had plans that this summer you will work, or at the end of spring you will work, you are not eligible, unfortunately. If you are one of those people who is finishing up your regular EI benefits and either those benefits have run out now or they will be running out in the next few months, you are not eligible for CERB. Now, another question people have asked is, how do you go about getting the CERB benefits with respect to your employer? Do you need to be actually temporarily laid off to access CERB? And the answer is no. The simple answer is that the only requirement is you must have stopped working due to COVID-19 and be without employment income for at least 14 consecutive days within the initial 4-week period. So from March 15th to April 12th, that's the initial 4 weeks period. If you have worked for a few days, but for 14 consecutive days you had zero income, then you are eligible to apply for CERB. For subsequent periods, so April 12th onwards, your income has to be zero for you to be able to apply for CERB. Let's talk about this requirement of zero income during CERB period. What does that mean? So initial 4-week period, as I said, you ought not to have any employment income for at least 14 consecutive days. So, and then what is that employment income? What is included in that? Your wages, if you're earning income from your employer, either hourly or salaried, it doesn't matter. If you are on paid leave, that is still considered employment income. Self-employment income, or any EI benefits. If you're getting regular benefits or illness benefits or maternity or parental benefits, those are all included in the wording employment. So for at least 14 consecutive days, you ought not to have earned any income from those sources. Now, please notice that any investment income, for example, or rental income, or any other sources of income that you may be getting money from, those are not specified yet to exclude you from the eligibility for CERB. So what happens in the subsequent period? So after April 12, 2020, your employment income has to be zero. If you earn any part-time income, whether it's a very small amount, 10%, 20% of your regular wages, you will still not be able to be eligible for CERB. Now, people have asked questions about income from other sources, from other benefits. So, for example, if you are getting any support payment from your province or territory under any scheme, would you be eligible to receive CERB in addition to those support payments? The answer the government has provided is that it depends upon that particular provincial or territorial plan. So you need to check from your own province. If you're getting, for example, disability payment from your province, then you need to see the legislation and see whether that allows you to have those benefits from the province or territory, and you can keep CERB as well. I don't know the answer. You'll have to check. Similarly, people in Ontario, if you're receiving ODSP or Ontario Works Payment, would you be entitled to have CERB? Maybe. I don't know the answer, but please check that. Let's talk about our final point, employment insurance or CERB. If you are already receiving employment insurance benefits, whether they're regular, illness, maternity, parental, you will continue to receive your employment insurance benefits. If you are receiving less amount than $2,000, the amount will not increase to $2,000. It will remain whatever you are receiving from EI. If your EI expires before October 3rd, 2020, then you are allowed to apply for CERB, provided that you meet all of the eligibility criteria, including the criteria for that you have stopped work due to COVID-19. If you have already applied for EI, you do not need to reapply for CERB. Now, if you were eligible for EI before March 15th, then what you will receive will be EI benefits, not CERB. So if you receive EI benefits which are less than $2,000 a month, unfortunately, that is the amount that you will get. If you were entitled to EI which was more than $2,000 a month, then that's what you will get. If you were eligible for EI on March 15th or later, then you will automatically receive CERB. Now, what is the payment amount? I've already mentioned this, but let's make it more clear. If you are entitled to higher than $500 EI per week, but you have applied for CERB or you're entitled to CERB, you will only receive $500 per week. You will not receive the additional EI amount. On the other hand, if you are entitled to less than $500 EI per week in your employment insurance benefits, you will still receive $500 per week. You will not receive the lesser amount. I hope this clarifies some of the questions people had about the eligibility criteria. I'm sure there will be more questions, and we will see. The regulations are still not out. I checked this morning. Once the regulations are out, we may have more clarity. But thank you for watching. Stay safe.